Please welcome your host, renowned innovator and creator, Shira Lazar.
Yeah!
Wow! They redid my intro for the last session. I love it. Welcome to our last session of NAB. How's everyone doing?
Yeah!
This is all about thinking unconventionally to unleash your potential as a content creator. How many content creators are here?
Yeah!
Yeah, some noise. Come on. Casey's listening. Show him some noise.
Oh!
I love it because in the beginning when I asked that, people were like, and then this last session, everyone's like, yes, I'm a content creator. Well, YouTube star, digital creator, filmmaker, and multimedia leader, Casey Neistat has always empowered creators to think outside the box and redefine their creative potential. Do what you can't is his motto. And it has led him to more than 12.6 million subscribers on YouTube. That is wild. And millions on other social platforms too. So with that, please join me in welcoming Casey Neistat to the NAB stage.
Yeah!
Wow. You have quite the show out here of people.
It's great to be here. It's great to see you guys.
Yeah!
So to some, you're kind of like the godfather of viral videos. Is that too much of an older reference for you?
Godfather is one of my favorite movies. As long as we're talking about Godfather 1 or Godfather 2, just to be clear.
Okay. Yeah. So what got you started posting on YouTube and online? Why do that? Because your background was in filmmaking and more traditional content.
Yeah, you know, I grew up, I always wanted to be a filmmaker. I grew up always wanting to make movies. And when I grew up as like a child of the 90s, to make movies meant to be like an independent filmmaker, get to Sundance, write your script, get it produced, and sort of follow that path. And that's all that I knew. And I remember the work that was my favorite when I was young was like Spike Jonze, Michel Gondry, these guys that were making stuff that was radically different. If you remember those like amazing white stripe videos with like the made out of Legos and stuff that Michel Gondry made in the late 90s. And then I started making movies, and I moved to New York City to follow that path. But the only thing I had the resources to make were these little videos. Little videos I could shoot in my apartment, or shoot with my friends, or shoot with my brother. And there was no home for them. And a funny sort of part of my biography that is I don't talk about much, though it's fascinating, is that my brother Van and I made this series of films called Science Experiments. Then you guys look the right age. You remember Mr. Wizard's World?
Wait.
Nice.
Okay.
Do you not?
I was Canadian. So I am.
It might be a little. It was a children's TV show with like this old gray-haired guy, and he made science experiments for kids.
Okay, cool.
So Van and I, my brother and I, bought a book called Mr. Wizard's World Science Experiments. And we made like 5 of those experiments into these like really precise little videos. There was no YouTube. There was no way to post them online because the internet was too slow then. So we put them in art galleries as fine art. And it's preposterous. You can laugh at that. It's ridiculous. But it was the only home we could find for these little videos.
Yeah.
And we took that really far. Like we were in big museum shows. And
Wait, how old are you?
23, 24.
Okay.
And that was great. And then we made a series that we sold to HBO that didn't work. The show was fantastic, but they put it on a Friday night at midnight. Imagine if you could only watch your favorite YouTube videos at Friday night at midnight. You wouldn't find your audience. And in sort of the aftermath of that, I was like, I haven't found the place for my videos. I tried the indie thing, I didn't love it. I tried television, I didn't love it. And what is the home for the kind of stuff that I make that didn't really fit into any of these categories? And that was how I landed on YouTube. And what's wild is like, what YouTube was in like 2007, 2008 when I started on it was like basketball highlight clips, TV commercials, and then like terrible UGC that was mostly just like unedited videos, unedited footage. But what it was a direct path to your audience. And that had never existed before in all of media.
Yeah, and actually I forgot to mention that we've known each other since way back when. Are we considered OGs now? Is that weird?
I think just old. It's old.
It's just old. And even virality has changed a lot between now and then, right? Because like, did you even understand what was viral then, or is it just a word that we gave it, right? It was popular.
I don't know if this is true, but I'm going to say it as if it's the word of God. I think that the first time the word viral video, when that was coined, was in a Washington Post article about a video my brother Ben and I made in 2003 called iPod's Dirty Secret, which is a video we put on a splash page, like ipodsdirtysecret.com. You had to copy that address, put it into an email, fill out your friend's name, send them that email, and then they had to do the same thing. That was what was required for virality. But that video did like 10 million views on a splash page 4 years before YouTube was out.
Okay.
And so yeah, the definition of what it means to go viral then versus what it means now, I think has changed radically. And I think a lot of the opportunity that virality provided you back in the day, a lot of that's been muted now.
Okay, well, like in what way? Yeah, can you explain on that?
In one way, it's how I saw it. Like the calculus for virality was like, make something that's dynamic and universal, something that everybody's interested in one way or another. Make it great, and then find a delivery mechanism that will get it to the world. And if all those three things line up, which was maybe 1% of all the videos I made, it would go way beyond an audience. It would go radically beyond that. And I think now YouTube is such this gigantic monolith. It's this monster, this cloud that hangs over everything, that it's very hard to find that opportunity to break out. It's very hard to stand out in the sea of content that we see today. And I think like, if I did now what I did that led to so much of my early success on YouTube, 300 years ago, if I did that now, I would not have the success.
Really? You feel
there's
that
no
way?
question.
It was just like a time, a moment.
YouTube sucked in the late 2000s. If you were good at all, you would succeed. And I don't say it to diminish my work. I'm very proud of my work, but I started doing that in 2007.
Yeah.
In 2015, I had accumulated 200,000 subscribers.
Okay.
That's 8 years.
Yeah,
to get to 200,000.
It's a lot of time.
It's a slog. That's how long it took me to figure it out.
And I feel like still it takes sometimes people that much time to figure it out. You know, things are happening so much more quickly when it does pop. So let's go back to 2015. You started posting daily videos, right?
Yeah, and I think that's why I emphasize those first 8 years where my growth was very slow. I would have viral moments where my videos would pop off.
Yeah.
It would bring a new audience, and it was just this slow growth. And the transition, the shift that had things take off was when I started a daily show on YouTube, which at the time was relatively unprecedented. Like, if you remember 2013, 2014, 2015, there was like a great guy named Ben Brown, there was a guy named Louis Cole, and maybe a couple of other people that were doing what was then called like daily vlogging, which really was a point and shoot camera, somebody carrying it around like this, being like, now I'm gonna go get coffee. Now I'm drinking coffee. Now I'm gonna get in my car. Now I'm in my car. Now I'm gonna, and you were just sort of following a person's life.
Like vlogging, day in the life vlogging.
Sure,
Yeah.
you know what that means now, but then that's what it was. It was
Yeah.
more of a diary, this sort of dribble of what your day looked like.
Yeah.
And the people who were successful doing that happened to live very interesting lives. And I looked at that and I was like, I live in New York City. I look around and see interestingness everywhere. Could I come up with a story to tell every day? And I just started my technology company, and I was like, that's a source of interesting content. Let me try this. And the response to that was certainly something that I had not anticipated. 200,000 subscribers took 8 years, and in the next, I think 16 months, I went from 200,000 to 10 million subscribers.
What? That is crazy.
Sure. Yeah, pretty crazy. It's crazy to have lived that.
Yeah, so you were producing these daily videos. It wasn't like quick reels, low edited videos, lo-fi.
Yeah, I
pretty
mean,
well done. I mean, how were you living your life doing this? How did you have a life? What was the process?
That's a big question. The process technically was, it took me a minute to figure out. It probably took me 6 months, 150 episodes to figure it out. To really figure out how to make sure I could tell a story every single day. I had 0 employees helping me with that, so I wrote, shot, edited, posted, starred in every single one of those episodes. It was just me. It was a one-man show. The irony of that is my good friend and somebody who's a far more talented filmmaker than I, named Dan Mace, I moved him to New York City to help me with my daily videos.
Okay.
Because they were so burdensome. I was like, I need help and it'll make it easier. It got twice as hard and took twice as long.
With help.
With not just help, but like my high school basketball team brought in Michael Jordan 96 to help out, and it slowed things down.
Why?
I think it's like, there's this great book by Malcolm Gladwell called Blink, and it's how you think in like emergency situations. And there's one chapter in there where he talks about how police officers more often make the right decision when they're alone than when they're with a partner.
Huh.
And there's a parallel there, which was that when it was just me, just shoot, because I have an idea, and then I would say something because I thought that sounded right. And I would get home and I would look at the pieces and I would say, here's the story, bulldoze through. I still edit this way, but especially then, I would start at frame 1 and go all the way through, and by the time I got to the end, the movie was done. I'd rewatch it and clean it up, but I never watched scenes over and over. I never edited out of chronological order. Everything was done with that level of precision. So then you introduce another brain there, and there comes discussion. There comes sort of like a debate, is this scene work? Did this make sense? Why didn't we shoot it like that? I think I know of a better shot for that. And all of that just slowed the process.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you asked me how my
But you
life
also
is. My
know
life is
how you
terrible.
work. But you have to know how you best work. For other people, it might support them. Like, it seems like
Sure.
you have a self-awareness.
Yeah, there's
Awesome.
also something about it, like the Daily Show specifically, the ambition was to make a daily show about my new startup. Turns out like 4 dudes sitting in a room writing code every day is not that interesting. So after like 1.5 episodes of that, I really turned the camera on myself.
Yeah.
I was sort of squeezing all the interestingness I could find out of my own life. And when you live in a place like New York City and you have a job like I had, like there's a lot of fun stuff to talk about. But it became more and more introspective and more about me. And I do think that had a relationship with the actual technical style of making it, because, you know, if you hire me to star in a Lululemon commercial, I was in a Lululemon commercial with Wayne Gretzky like 6 months ago.
What? Were you like stretching in yoga pants?
That is like the apex of my career. My agent called and I was like, yeah, I love those pants. Who else is in the commercial? And she was like, Wayne Gretzky. I was like, sign me up.
That's awesome.
But I show up on set, I do what I'm supposed to do, and then I step back, and the editors make it what they want it to be. And that's how that works. But when the videos were about me, and my life, and my thoughts, and my own experiences, to relinquish that to someone else is to sort of put how I depict myself to the whole world that is my YouTube audience, putting it in the hands of someone else. And that's a really challenging thing to do. You know, there's so many times where I would just say something to camera, and maybe my eye contact shifted, or maybe my inflection moved at the wrong point. I was like, that's not how I talk. That was like a little performative there. I didn't actually think that that thing was interesting, that I said was interesting. That shot is bullshit, because that's not real.
Yeah.
Cut it out. And that is a crazy nuanced thing. And that is something that I just couldn't surrender to someone else.
And so you've always done completely your own production, everything.
Yeah, for the most part. You know, like my HBO series, which is effectively like my YouTube channel that my brother Van and I put on HBO. You know, he and I worked in that side by side.
Yeah.
And like I've learned everything I know about making movies from my older brother Van, so that was an amazing collaboration. But it was very much in line with the way I make YouTube videos. But I've also, you know, I've produced some feature films. Like I made 2 movies with the Safdie brothers. Both those movies were shot on actual celluloid. One was 16 millimeter, one was 35 millimeter. You know, even though we had very small budgets, they were very, very legitimate productions with actors and crews and lighting and sound. And so I've done that. You know, I've made feature-length documentaries that I've written and directed, and I've done that. I've produced TV content. I've directed TV content. You know, I've dipped my toe in almost every facet of the media space. And the thing that I come back to, that I love the most, is a version of what my vlog was.
So I want to know, you were kind of always behind the scenes in many ways. When you start putting yourself in front of the camera, like you became inherently a brand to star. What was that transition like? Is it what you expected? Is it what you wanted?
It's fucking weird, man. It's so weird.
And you even have like your brand. You're like, I don't take off my glasses. This is the look.
I just, you know, The glasses thing is part of it. There's this great line somebody asked Jack Nicholson why he's always wearing sunglasses. And he was like, when I take my sunglasses off, I'm just another old fat guy. But with my sunglasses on, I'm Jack Nicholson. So when I take my sunglasses off, I'm just a funny looking guy. But when I put my sunglasses on, I'm Jack Nicholson. No, what was strange about it is that I love making the work. I love making the videos. Like when I watch a video back and it's done and it's good for me. I don't make videos for my audience, it's just for me. And I think it's good. That is like the greatest feeling in the world. It's like climbing a mountain and standing at the top and looking around and there's no one else there and you're like, I did this. This is mine. And that's what my whole career has been, just that. It got very different when that equaled having all this kind of attention and notoriety. And I struggle so much to understand, so much of the younger people in the creator space now, who you can tell very clearly because they say it, like their ambition is that attention.
Yeah.
And for me, that attention was something I wasn't naive to. Of course, when you're getting that kind of, I think my YouTube channel has like 3 or 4 billion views, you know that there's attention that comes with that. But how it manifests is super weird. And when you go from 200,000 subscribers to 10 million in 18 months, you don't have the opportunity to sort of stop and look around and be like, what's happening? But if I could do it without the fame, without the intention, knowing what I know now, I would sign that contract. I would take that deal.
But with the reality of it,
there's no way to do that. That deal could never be.
Yeah, exactly. But it seems like you still accepted it and embraced it. I mean, you kind of like it. It's allowed you to do what you want to do and get paid, and it's do it all.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's just, and it's nothing to complain about. And it's validating. Like you have all these people engaging with your work. It means they like your work. Like there's so much amazing about that. But like fame and attention is this funny thing where you can create it, but you have no control of it. You have no idea where it's going to go or what it's going to manifest as. And I remember, this is a little intimate, so if you guys want to lean in a little bit.
Lean in.
I remember like towards the end of my daily show, my wife came home completely shook up, and she had gotten into a taxi and there was some altercation where the taxi cab was screaming at somebody else, and she got in and he's still screaming. She drives away, the taxi stinks. She's like, should I get out? What do I do? And the guy looks in the mirror and turns around and goes, hello, Candace. How's Francine? Francine's my baby daughter. Maybe he's a big fan, but that's a very jarring thing.
Yeah.
And it's like to connect that, like my love for creating work, my love for being alone in my office with my head down making like videos, to connect that with having my wife feel threatened in the back of a taxi cab because the stranger's talking about my daughter, that's the kind of thing that I didn't get to stop and look around and think about throughout that process. So like those are the sorts of fallout. Like it's nice when you go into a restaurant and they recognize you and you get a table faster. That part's cool. But it's just a delicate thing, and I think that internet fame is a very strange kind of fame. Mm-hmm. But like internet fame comes with this sort of sense of entitlement from the audience, and I feel this way about YouTubers that I like. I feel entitled. And that entitlement is that there's an intimacy there.
Yeah.
I know that when I'm watching a video, Marquez Brownlee is my favorite YouTuber. I know when I'm watching that video, it's just Marquez and he's talking to me. It's one-on-one, it's amazing. So when I see him, I know this guy. I know you. But when you watch Fight Club, you don't know Brad Pitt. Like he's not actually Tyler Durden, he's Brad Pitt. I don't know him. So if I saw him, I might say, hey man, I love Fight Club.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't know what the next level. I don't.
It's different, yeah.
It's a very strange thing. It's a super weird thing.
So with that, at 12 million subscribers, you stopped at your peak. Why?
So my wife got into this taxi cab, and
you already told that story. That was it. That was a pretty.
It was part of it. I think it was also a culmination of like, and this is getting super introspective and emotional. I love where we're headed right now.
You're welcome. They call me the Barbara Walters of YouTube.
Clearly, you've earned that. The momentum was so fast, and then what happens is this weird thing with having a daily show, 10 minutes a day that you have to pull out of your life. When the content starts to feel stale to you,
Yeah.
You start to look around at your life and you're like, okay, well, I need more interestingness in my life. And then you start to chase it, and all of a sudden the tail is wagging the dog. And all sorts of weird things happen when you get into that space. And I know for me, a whole bunch of weird things happen. Like there's a little bit of doubt, like I was faking it, and that was bothersome for me. And then internet comments, YouTube comments are vicious, and that's okay, I signed up for that, I'm hip to that. But when the YouTube comments are critical of you for something that you're critical of yourself for,
Ooh, yeah.
that hits hard. And I just remember I made this one video, like it was just an episode, and there was nothing happened that day. I was like traveling, and we just like went out and made some shit up. We didn't fake it, we just ran around and I made a video out of that. And there was a comment that was like, I feel like Casey's run out of interesting things to talk about, and that just crushed me because it was the truth.
Yeah.
And it was a combination of myriad things, but I remember reading that and being like, yeah, I've got to stop. I have to which sucks because you're turning off the fire hose of growth, of money, of attention that you quickly get addicted to.
Yeah.
Minus the taxi cab driver. It's like you're willingly electing to hit pause with that. But I watched so many of my peers in the YouTube space, this is like 2018-ish, fall into this cycle, this vicious, endless loop of like sensationalism equals views, greater sensationalism equals more views. And if you keep in that cycle, it invariably ends in disaster. For every one of those huge YouTubers, it ends in some sort of disaster because they're trying to make more sensational content. And when I watch, Logan Paul and what happened in Japan with that video, Logan's a good guy, Logan's a friend of mine, and his videos were silly and goofy and certainly be critical of them. But when that happened, it was like, I understood. I gave him shit for it. I don't think it's okay what he did, but the point was like, he was chasing that sensationalism in the name of views. And it just imploded because of that. I didn't want any part of that. I felt like I can take a break and I'm in a great spot, and whatever I'm going to lose because I take a break, I will earn something on the backside of that that's more important to me.
So with that, you're still very much active in the space, but in a different way. I mean, you're here. Obviously, you haven't retired.
So happy to be here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, and a side note, when we surveyed NAB attendees as to who they wanted on stage, you were one of the people. So
Thanks,
there you
thanks.
go. You asked for him, and he's here. That's pretty cool. So what does being a creator mean to you now? Like, how do you approach your work and career? Because I do think there is the pressure to always be on, to chase the views, to chase the relevance. But it seems like you've maintained a relevance in your own way. You choose how you want to approach it now.
Yeah, I think the creator space as a whole, the top of the funnel, that is the amount of people that have access to jump in, has gotten so wide. Everyone and anyone can, mostly are, and certainly has access to being a creator now. That's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
The filmmaking has historically been the most sort of exclusive art form there is. If you want to write a book, go get a pencil and paper. Prisoners get access to that. If you want to be a photographer, use your phone. But you can buy a disposable camera. But if you wanted to be a filmmaker up until about the mid 2000s, you needed education, you needed crew, you needed resources, you needed money, you needed people, you needed all these things that were inaccessible. That's over. The top of the funnel is as wide as can be, and everyone now has access to this elitist art form. The bottom of the funnel, as in what's being made that's good, has not budged. It has not gotten bigger. It's changed a little bit, but there isn't more great work being made. There's just more shit being made. And that's okay. That's totally okay. It takes a while to get good. It's really hard to do that.
True.
But just because everybody has access to it doesn't mean that more great stuff is being made. So I zoom way out and I look at that and I try to translate that to whether it's a musician or to other filmmakers or to any other art form. And it's like, who are the people in those spaces that I admire the most? And it's always the people that have never compromised on their integrity. Because virality fades, fame fades, attention fades, like all that stuff goes away. But if you make something great, it lasts. And that's why we all listen to our favorite songs that we've been listening to for 20 years. It's why The Godfather, Part 1 and 2, not Part 3, are the greatest films ever made. Because quality lasts. But integrity is really expensive. It's really hard to do because it's time, it's effort. I can't make something great every day anymore. And I'm not interested in that.
Do you put filmmakers and content creators in the same bucket? Like, is it all being Okay.
No. No.
Is it part of the creator economy? You know,
Yes, but and maybe the word filmmaker is not appropriate anymore because I haven't shot on film in a long time. But like movie maker, I think like if you're trying to tell a story, if you're trying to adhere to sort of any 3-act narrative, you know, that's a filmmaker. And I think what's beautiful and wonderful is to be a content creator now. That means so many different things. That means a million different things. That means like the mom that lives in the Midwest who's the best pie baker in the world can have little shows where she's showing how she bakes pies and she can find her audience. She's not a filmmaker, but she's certainly a content creator. One of my favorite YouTube channels is called Retro Dodo. Does anyone here watch Retro Dodo? That guy.
You?
It is a YouTube channel.
Okay.
Exclusively about retro gaming devices that illegally play Nintendo games from the 90s. A whole channel dedicated to that. And they've got a successful channel, they've got a podcast, they've published 2 books. And that is like, they're not filmmakers, they're content creators. And I think that they represent what is really beautiful about the funnel being so wide at the top, is because certainly 15 years ago, there's no place on planet Earth for that content. And now they built an incredibly successful career based on that content. Their content's also great, so they've made it to the bottom of the funnel in a way that's meaningful.
Well, yeah, because I feel like has the definition of great changed? Because great, you know, on TikTok now, like there was that, 36-hour video series of someone talking about her partner that was a scammer, you know what I mean? Like, and that was considered like, this is an example of greatness on TikTok, you know what I mean?
I think like, there's a reason why there's a direct correlation or inverse correlation between the fact that I think in all of history, maybe there's a couple exceptions, the movie that has won Best Picture at the Academy Awards has never been the movie that's grossed the most money in the box office. Maybe Return of the King did that, but for the most part that never happens. And the reason why is I don't necessarily think there's a correlation between great work, meaningful, purposeful work that will last, and audience size. I think you can make a movie that does a couple hundred views and it's fun to watch, just like Transformers 9 was fun to watch. But when you're laying in bed at night, you're not like, God, you know, I was a different man before I saw Transformers. This movie has changed me.
Some might say otherwise.
I would love to meet that
How has your creative process changed now? Who's the Casey Neistat is the content creator filmmaker now versus the? I
mean, I'm very lazy now, in a way that's super deliberate. Like I work hard to be as lazy as possible. I still get up at the crack of dawn and run 1,000,000 miles a day and all that, but you know, my kids are older and they're my priority, and I've achieved a level of sort of financial security that I've never had no one in my family's ever had access to in their whole lives. And I think, you know, it's required me to sort of hit the brakes and pause and say, what are the priorities right now? And I want to make work that's really meaningful to me, work that I love, and I want to spend time with my family. So I have no employees, 0.
Good for you.
I mop my own floors and take out my trash, and I love it. It makes me so happy. But there are some days when I go into my studio and I'm just like, I really need to put up a new shelf today. And I'll spend the whole day like perfectly making a shelf and be really psyched about that. And some days I'm drawn to make me a movie and I want to make a video, and I embrace that. But sort of the laziness or the more lackadaisical attitude towards creation comes from, you know, the experience I had where I was making a video every single day, where my entire life was dictated by that video.
So you say you put in the work at this point, so now you get to choose how you approach it. Are you like in your semi-retired life? Like what's going on?
You know, I'm 43, retired. No, I just think a lot about where I want to go and what I want to do.
Yeah.
You know, I made a movie in January or something like that about, the movie's about persistence, but the narrative is about me running marathons. And like that movie has been in my brain for like 17 years, because that's how long I've been running marathons. And I've been obsessing over telling that story. And I remember when I finally achieved my goal, which is the finish line for the movie, like I couldn't make the movie until I achieved the goal. 17 years of pursuit to achieve that goal. Like writing that movie at making that movie, which is one of the most complicated 10 minutes I've ever made, like that's the rabbit that I'm chasing. That's like the drug addict who can never get the right high. That's me. Like, I want that. And if I can find that, like that enthusiasm to tell a story that I'm that passionate about, there's nothing greater in the world. So am I retired right now? Definitely not. And what does laziness mean? Laziness means like I'm not in an aggressive pursuit to push stuff out just to push stuff out. Instead, I'm trying to take a more thoughtful, mature, old man approach to life and creation, which is like creating. What turns me on? What's exciting? Like, what's an exciting story to tell? And they don't always have to be big stories. I have a story I want to tell about my decision, which is a huge decision for me, guys. I now make coffee in my office instead of walking to the coffee shop. It was like a multi-year decision to do that, because I'm always like, no, it's important to walk outside. And then I start doing the math, and it's like now like a large coffee plus tip, it's like $8.
Yes.
And then I'm like, okay, but 5 times a week, but I do it twice a day. And you start doing that out, and you're like, no, it doesn't make any sense. And what about the time factor? But what would a coffee machine look like in my studio?
Wow.
I'm very passionate about making a movie, about my decision to make my own coffee.
But I feel like that's what makes your stuff great. It's these nuances of your life and how you think. And then part of that, I feel like, and we're going to get into advice for creators, but it's really about knowing yourself and leaning into like what goes on in your head instead of thinking about what's working for other people, what other people are doing.
Yeah, I think that's really well said, and I think that that's hard. It's really difficult because like you still have to look at that view count, and you still have to confront, like, if people aren't watching it, you associate that with people not liking it.
Yeah.
And having the confidence to be like, no, I like it. So if it doesn't get the clicks, then it's okay. It just means it didn't respond to as big of an audience. Yeah, I made this video maybe like 5 months ago. And all it was, I wasn't intending on making a public video of it, but my wife and I went on this like lovely romantic little trip, and it was an hour drive to the airport when we were leaving, and I just turned the camera on her and I interviewed her. A very sincere talk with like a middle-aged woman who's a mother about what that means and how her life has changed. Like, my audience of like boys that like me to watch me snowboard around New York City and be crazy, like they're not there. This is the story I told myself. They're not there to listen to a woman in her 40s, a mother of 2, talk about the challenges she faces.
But they should have more of those conversations with women.
Well, maybe, but I made the video and I was like, you know what, this is great. And I sent it to Candace and my wife, and she was like, I love that. And I published it. And it did great, but in a million years, I wouldn't think that my audience or an audience is interested in that the way they were.
Yeah.
And that gives you the confidence to just say like, fuck it, no one knows what they want to watch, no one knows what they want to buy, no one knows what they want to engage in. This is the reason why we go to restaurants, because we want to trust the chef. So if you're trying to look to your audience to figure out what it is you should be making, I think that's the first misstep. And that's why, like, you know, it's a very Rick Rubin-esque kind of thinking, but it's like, no, the work is done when you say it's done. The work is good when you think it's good.
It goes back to a bit of, we were talking about this backstage, the personal accountability and all of this, right? So I want to get into what you think of YouTube now, creators like Mr. Beast and what he's done.
Yeah, so,
are you friends with him?
Yeah, Jimmy's a good friend of mine. And Jimmy's a great, Mr. Beast, he's a great guy, fantastic guy, and I love what he has done, and I think it's extraordinary, and I think he deserves all the celebrating that's been done for what he's doing. I think it's amazing. But, and this isn't a criticism towards Jimmy, but I think that there's been this Mr. Beastification of YouTube as a whole, which is that both the beauty and one of the challenges of YouTube is that because that funnel is so wide and anybody can jump in, most people are entering YouTube and like, I don't know what to make. I don't know what it is I want to talk about, but that guy's successful and he's winning. So let me do that. And I think that's where it gets dangerous on the platform, because Jimmy, and what's amazing about Jimmy is he's never considered himself an artist. He's never wanted to tell stories that change the world. His goal is to win. He wants to be as big and as broad of an appeal as possible. And that's why his success is so amazing. It's exactly what he set out to do. But I think when copycats or newcomers to the platform, their only ambition is that view count.
Yeah.
Is the success on the sort of Mr. Beast terms of success. I think that's where it can be a little bit dangerous. dangerous is a strong word, uninteresting maybe, because you see all of these young creators and they're like, okay, in order for me to get views, I need to talk about money, I need to be sensational, I need to be crazy, and I need to do something wild. And I think that that's unfortunate, because I think the true magic of YouTube, the very best content, is when people are sharing stories from their perspective, ideas that they engage with, talking about old video games. Marquez Brownlee, who I think will go down in history as the most successful YouTuber in the history of the platform.
Wow.
His passion is around electronics, and it has been since day one. That's been his driving motivation. Not the view count, not the money, not anything else. And I think there's a beauty in that. There's a beauty in, Bob Dylan playing his acoustic guitar in Washington Square Park, and that's how he built his career. And I think that there's a concern with whatever that fat guy's name is from Fort Lauderdale that started like Britney Spears' career, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys. He discovered a formula that will make musicians successful. But that's uninteresting to me. Backstreet Boys were great, they were huge, but they don't have the cultural relevance. They don't have, for me, the sort of purpose that like the Beatles has or something like that, because they were created based on a formula. And that is, for me, that's antithetical to making something that you think is great.
So is there a formula to the videos you create now or to viral success?
No, I think there was. I think there was a way you could formulate virality a decade ago, but I don't think that that's there anymore.
Okay.
I don't. I think there are definitely some technical things you can do that will help you. Collaborations still work. If you have somebody who's standing on a very tall pedestal because they've got a big audience and they invite you up, that will lead to some fast growth. But I think really we're so inundated with content in 2024, the only way to succeed in this space is to make something new, make something different, make something that's truly unique, which is rare and hard to do, and then keep doing that until you succeed. And for some people it might be 6 months, and for some people it might be 10 years. But I think that's the only way to really build a meaningful career as a creator today.
And does it also mean just working on your channel? I feel like you could also be doing that for you while also using your expertise and skills for other people. Like a lot of people think, okay, I'm on a platform, I'm creating, I'm not making money, what do I do? Right? When you could be making money using those skills for other things possibly.
Yeah, I mean, I think like, and I probably said this, so I take it back, and I do look back at my own content with some degree of like cringe when I think about this, but like the idea of like YOLO, quit your job, go all in, go for it, is terrible advice. I'm totally serious, it is terrible advice. Like I've always said that I make money so I can make movies. I don't make movies so I can make money. And I've been very lucky to do that. But before I was able to make a living off of my work, I washed dishes, I was a bike messenger, I was an assistant, I worked with my hands doing manual labor a lot. And I did that to afford my filmmaking career. So if you're in a position to have, a meaningful career and have a meaningful income, doing some day job, doing something that you went to school for, if you're able to carve that out, then do that. Because what that does is it gives you the freedom to figure out who you are as a creator while not worrying about how to pay rent. And I think the danger of the YOLO mentality is that if your only way to make a living, the only way to support your children, feed yourself, pay your rent, your car payment, the only way to do that is by succeeding as a creator. You're only looking at how can I get there as quickly as possible and make as much money as possible. And that is deadly. That is dangerous. That is stupid. Because you're going to be making garbage chasing after that little win. But if you have this safe place, which is your job, which is your career, which is your income, you're able to have freedom when you're creating the content. And I think that's how you really find your voice.
I think that's a really important advice. I want to get into what platform is your favorite right now. We've been talking a lot about YouTube. Is it still YouTube? Where are you paying attention to?
I mean, I try not to watch more than 8 or 9 hours a day of TikTok. Try to keep that down. And I'm not even joking. Look, you guys want to see my cell phone?
Oh, bringing back the flip.
Ain't got no TikTok. This isn't because it's cool. I have a horrible addiction to TikTok. I think that I still like YouTube because it feels much more like a utility now.
Okay.
It's just this tool where you can post stuff. It's the second biggest search engine in the world. And I like that. I like the ambiguity that it now has, that it didn't used to have. It used to stand for something else. So I still like YouTube. But I think the magic of like, whether it's what Twitter has done with opening up their video product, which is really dynamic and cool. I accidentally catch myself watching videos that are 10 minutes long on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, all the time. I think TikTok is, I mean, I hope they ban TikTok. I'm against it because it's a Chinese spy op. But that notwithstanding, I think that what TikTok has done, or Reels is doing, what's it called on YouTube, Shorts or something like that, is it's introducing an entirely new genre of content and creators. I have a friend of mine, Victoria, who's a big TikToker. She's making like 10 TikToks a day. She doesn't post them all, but that's what she's doing. There's no way you can do that on YouTube. And I think when you have that cadence and you have this ability where it's an algorithm-driven content, not necessarily subscriber-driven content, you can try new things. You can fail 99 times as long as you win once, because that's how the platform is built. So YouTube is still me, because I'm old school, and I like to make videos in a vacuum and then post them out there like they're precious and have them live in one spot. I'm agnostic about my enthusiasm across platforms, because I think that top of that funnel just keeps getting bigger, keeps introducing new people, new styles, welcomes everyone, and I think that that is a really magical thing.
All right, let's get into monetization. This is like the tactical part of the conversation, because I think it's really important. It's a hot button issue for a lot of us creators. What do you think of the current state of content monetization?
It's challenging, but I think it's more crowded now than it's ever been, but it's also better now than it's ever been. You know, I made a movie for Nike in like 2012 called Make It Count. And I remember before I could make that video, I had to literally go out to Beaverton, go out to meet with the heads of Nike and explain to them the value of putting a video on the internet, on my channel. And I don't think they got it. I think they were just like, he's not asking for a lot of money, like let him do his thing. And then it was, you know, hugely successful. And I remember I did a project with Mercedes a year later, and I had to go meet the CEO of Mercedes and explain to him what it would mean to post videos on YouTube instead of buying more ads on MSNBC. We are way past that. No one questions that anymore. The numbers and dollars being spent in the new media space, that social media and all the outlets that we were just talking about, is bigger than it's ever been. And that's amazing. No one's questioning the why. Why should I spend money on YouTube? That's great. All of those numbers have gone up. But along with that, the space is so much more crowded. And the disparity of the amount of money spent at the tip top. And I don't mean like 1%. I mean like 500 people. If there are a billion channels on YouTube and TikTok and everything combined, a couple hundred people are vacuuming up 95% of all the money being spent on the
Is that an issue?
It's great for me. Sucks for everybody else. Yeah, it's a huge issue, because I think what it does, it's not elevating the creators that deserve attention. It's not giving the resources to creators who need the attention. And also, for brands spending money, there's an opportunity. If you're on a channel that gets 20,000 views, but every one of those 20,000 views are people that are hyper engaged with old video game consoles or whatever it might be, and you're selling a product that directly applies, you will have a much greater return with that sort of focused targeting advertising than you would with a much broader, let me be in front of one of Timmy's videos that gets 200 million views. And I think that technology is going to fix this. It's already happening pretty quickly. There's a number of startups that do just that. They connect you directly with the brands. Like, that's great. And they're moving slowly because it's a wild transition. I think that AI and YouTube, Google's application of AI on the platform is accelerating that pretty quickly. So I think that money, even though it's more and more is pouring into the top and it's going to a small group of people, I do think it's reaching more and more people. Overall, I'm wildly optimistic about the monetization opportunities for all new creators.
Yeah, so with that, how can creators make money in 2024? I think that's the thing.
The how is challenging. I think AdSense is still meaningful. It still matters.
Yeah, it's the only platform though. Instagram, there's no monetization. TikTok, barely.
TikTok, barely.
X
is mushy. But it's still meaningful if you can achieve it on YouTube. But I think really it's about, you know, every television channel for all of history worked, either their subscriber model, which was very, very narrow, or they were ad supported. Every single television channel worked that way before streaming. Every channel. So the idea that every single YouTube channel should also be incorporating ads, I don't think is so far-fetched.
Yeah.
And I hope we get there soon, because working with brands is an incredible experience for every creator. It forces you to think in a different way. It forces you to approach your work in a different way. It forces creators to learn what it means to communicate with brands. It forces you to evaluate the value of the content you're creating. So I still think that is both the most challenging, because there's no direct path to finding the brands that you could work with. But I also think it has the most potential.
Okay, you're also into gadgets, giving public reviews of them. Let's talk about what are some of your favorite gadgets out there right now as a filmmaker or content creator? I know you had the Insta360 you were posting
Yeah,
about.
Insta360, they have a booth here. Everybody should go check it out. I've been working with them for a little over a year now. And I think they're a great example. Like, their 360 camera, it looks like a stick of gum, and it's fantastic. And what that little tool does is it enables you to film and capture in a way that you couldn't prior. And I think that is where my enthusiasm lies the most. Like, I went on this fantastic ski trip in Alaska a few weeks ago, and we're in helicopters, you couldn't bring a camera with you, but I had my phone with me. And I shot all these like little clips on my phone, and I'm going back, and I don't use my iPhone that often to film videos. The quality is unbelievable. Like, it's unreal what you can do now with just your phone. So my enthusiasm when it comes to gadgets are how accessible are they and how far can they take you? And I think we've reached sort of a critical mass where, like, they're accessible to everyone. You can't afford the new iPhone or whatever. Just go buy whatever shitty disposable phone they sell at Best Buy for 99 bucks. It still has a 1080 camera on it. That's an amazing thing. The editing software is free. You want the good stuff, you have to pay Adobe, but you can find free software. Windows ships with it and Apple ships with it. So for me, it's about access. Like, I do not care about gear. I don't care about the fancy stuff. I don't care. All I care is how well does that tool help you communicate your story? My least favorite YouTube genre are really beautiful, amazing videos that say nothing. Absolutely nothing. I was at the Eclipse a couple weeks ago. Last week, when was the Eclipse?
Yeah, I was in track of time. I think it was last week.
Who here got to see Totality? Nice.
Well, on video I did.
Okay, I'm in a field with like 1,000 other people in the middle of Vermont to maximize my totality, and I'm looking around and like almost everyone had their cameras pointed at the sun. I get it, but it's like, you really care about that? Do you really think you're going to capture the sun, this eclipse, better than like National Geographic's? You can just download their video off YouTube. All of my videos are pointed at me and my friends, because us freaking out about an eclipse is something that happens once in a lifetime. That is what the interesting moment was, not the sun. Not that at all. There's no way you're going to communicate how tremendous of an experience that is by filming the sun. You'll never do it. But turn the camera around. There's like this old guy next to me. He had his old camera filming him and his granddaughters. And I was like, that guy gets it. So for me, like, when it comes to gear, it is a tool, and it's the tool to get you from the story you want to tell to being able to tell it. So the things that excite me are the ones that let you do that the cheapest, the easiest, the newest ways, and anything that falls within that spectrum.
I love that perspective. I have to ask, what do you think of the Apple Vision Pro? Because I feel like when that has come out, Hollywood filmmaking, like, how are we going to use it?
Well, I feel partially responsible for a lot of people I know buying one. My bad. I made a video that went really viral. It was like the most viral video I've posted in a long time about the Vision Pro, because it's the most incredible piece of technology I've ever used.
Okay.
Like a religious experience when you use them for the first time. And I used mine nonstop for the first 48 hours. Since then, they've been on a shelf right next to my Quest 3. So I am so excited about where that technology is going to go. And if the only purpose of that $4,000 pair of ski goggles was to show me that, cool. But as of right now, like, it's tough to figure out where a piece of tech in its current iteration fits into my life. But I'm so psyched for like the future of that. Like, I can't wait. Like, I wish right now I could just be like, and take a picture of you guys.
Hopefully they'll make a version for you for your
Yeah,
class.
just make them look like this.
Exactly. Maybe you can create something like
Exactly
that.
like that.
AI influencers, people are freaking out, creators are freaking out, like it's the end of days, Hollywood as we know. What's your take on AI and the creator economy in the future of filmmaking?
I mean, I think the freak out is necessary and warranted, and I think it's going to have huge impact in the landscape. I think, to get really hyper specific, I think, like, if you've ever been on a big set, there's always reshoots. And I think reshoots, you use body doubles and stand-ins and things like that to try to keep your principal actors out as much as possible. I think all reshoots are going to be able to be done with AI. Not all, but most. So I think like those are the low-hanging fruit that AI is going to chip away at to begin with. I think like the influencer marketing stuff that's done with AI, that's going to get chipped away at pretty quickly. But I think the thing that AI is going to have an impossible job of achieving is that last 1% that stands between everything and what's great. I think that last 1% is only a human can impart that. And the examples I like to give are like, most Netflix movies that are made by Netflix are perfectly mediocre. And they're perfectly mediocre. There's some great stuff, especially their docuseries, but most of their big, huge budget movies are perfectly mediocre. And it's because that's creativity by committee. They have all of this data showing what their audience likes. We're going to apply all that data. We're going to apply this formula. We're going to make this movie that's purely mediocre. That as broad of appeal as possible. We're going to make Transformers over and over and over again. But when you have truly great films, movies that really stand out, it's because there's typically one or a small group of sociopaths heading that movie to make it exactly what they want to be. I think of the Wes Andersons of the world, the Francis Ford Coppola mortgaging his house to pay for Apocalypse Now because he believed in his movie that much. He believed in his creativity that much. So I think that last bit, AI will get you right to where you can see the finish line, but if you stop there, you've got something that's mush. And to get across that finish line requires greatness that I think only a human can
Like grit.
Yeah, and I think what it's going to do is it's like, if your work's average, you're screwed. It's over for you. Be great, because AI is going to have a really hard time being great itself.
And are you using AI tools?
No, I ain't got time for that shit. I don't know where it would fit in. I still only use straight cuts in my videos. I don't color correct. I don't do, and like I'm so uninterested in the technical side of filmmaking, especially as it's become so much more ubiquitous. That conversation talking about gear and lenses and camera. I don't care about any of that. Like after you watch Schindler's List, no one wants to go to Spielberg and say, "Tell me what camera you shot that with," because you just watched a movie that will change you and can change the world. And for me, the most offensive question is, what did you shoot that with? Because it means it's like...
I was actually about to ask that. I was about to ask for a shooting setup, but yes, continue.
It's like complimenting someone by saying they're nice. It is the most underhanded put down on the planet. Like, tell me about the story. Tell me about what affected you. Tell me why you like this story. If any of my heroes of filmmaking or art were here right now, I want to know like why Picasso painted Guernica. I want to know what he was feeling standing in Madrid after it had been bombed. That forced him to make that painting. I'm not going to ask him what kind of paint he used to make it.
So the theme of this is do what you can't. That is a motto that you have, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure I ever owned that as my own motto, but I made a movie called Do What You Can.
What does that mean to those here today? Like, what advice do you have to content creators or traditional media here? What does do what you can't mean in 2024?
You know, I think it's trusting yourself, and I say that not as like a platitude, not as an inspirational thing, but I think that that's a really scary, very difficult thing to do. If you make something that you believe in, you're part of something that you believe in, and then you share it with the world, there are going to be people that say it sucks, and that hurts, because you just put everything you are into that thing, that song, that video, that TV show, that commercial, whatever it was that you made. But I think the only way to make something that matters, to have that integrity to last, is to make something that you believe in. And if you think it's great, there's most likely someone else out there who also thinks it's great. And I think that is such a powerful and important and overlooked thing in all of creativity. And it's so easy to be distracted by AI, by these platforms, by comments, by technology, by all these fun, low-hanging, shiny objects that we all want to run to because they're tangible. But ignore all of that and put your head down and say, like, how can I share something that will be meaningful to someone else? You know, art was defined by someone, definitely not me, as the ability to communicate through the work what the creator, what the artist was feeling when they made that work to the person watching it. Like if you go through a bad breakup and you put on noise-canceling headphones and you listen to Sinead O'Connor's rendition of Nothing Compares to You, you will cry. because you will feel every word that she's saying, that Prince wrote, but every word that she's saying. You watch a great movie, if it's a love story, it brings you to tears. If it's a comedy, it makes you laugh. And that is a creative communicating through their work an emotion. And that is such a difficult thing to do. And that has nothing to do with what camera you shot it on, or what stabilizer you used, or what platform you released it on. It's purely about communicating that emotion. So I have no idea what question you asked me that led to this diatribe, but like for me, that is religion when it comes to creating.
Do what you can't.
Yeah, and I think that's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing. I can go out in Las Vegas right now with some camera that I'll find in NAB, some beautiful camera, and take the most beautiful shots of the skyline you've ever seen. None of you will care about it. It's just not interesting. You've seen it before. It's just not interesting. But if you go and you take that same camera, you tell a story, you capture a story, you document a story, you tell something, you capture some moment of humanity, some feeling, some emotion, and you communicate it through that lens, that very same lens, people will care, I will care. And I think that is like, that's a little bit of do what you can. That is a very scary, very difficult thing to do.
Well, it's courageous, it's vulnerable, in some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, in a year, 2 years, where's the future of media going? Well, because when I see your flip phone and other things you talk about, I see
regression.
Things simplify, right? In some ways, but is that where it's...
No, I think it's just going to get more and more complicated and scary. Scary for sort of the institutions, scary for old media. I think as it gets more and more competitive and people's appetite for content changes radically, it's going to be very, very hard for people doing things that have been successful forever that are no longer successful. I look at my kids on their iPads, which we also try to limit to under 12 hours a day, and their attention span is so limited in the way they watch their content. We are so strict with what we let them watch. Yet, the way that they consume is unlike anything I ever did as a kid, except for maybe, remember those old cable TV top boxes where you're like, to change the channel? The equivalent of that for me in the 80s would have been just going click, 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 click. Like that is how they consume media. How is that going to manifest when they're our age? What does that mean? What do they get? Do they have the willingness to sit in a theater for 2 hours? Are there going to be theaters? Or are these huge TVs in our houses going to change that? So I think the industry is changing radically. There's still fantastic work being made. There's still garbage being made. And I think there's still vast opportunity. I think the greater change, the greater amount of trepidation to break into this space, because what has always worked no longer works, is the greatest opportunity for all of us, because it means we get to invent what's going to work next. And it's scary not to have a roadmap to tell you how to get to where you want to go, but it's also a beautiful thing because it means you get to pave that road. So I'm both wildly scared and pessimistic about all of this scary change, but I'm super optimistic and enthusiastic about the opportunity that's going to come with that.
I love that. Well, we need some optimism right now. And finally, you did talk about your big 17-year movie that you're creating. Is it a movie or a series? Anything else you're excited about or that you want to share that you're working on that we should look out for?
I mean, specifically, no, but when I think about, no, because I'm not working on any one piece right now, but, you know, for me, it's just like, the more I look around on YouTube, the more I look at my own work, super scary, gnarly thing, but when I was doing that daily show, I was aware that someday I'll look back on it and be like, wow, remember when? And that's happening right now. Like my daughter discovered my YouTube channel, and she'll put it on the TV, and I'll just hear my wife be like, my God, look how young you are. And I'll look back and be like, holy shit, I remember that day. And that's an unbelievable thing. So like now what I'm excited about is like, I want to put my head down and just make more videos. And if one's about a coffee maker, great. And if one's about an achievement that took me 17 years to do, and it's a story of persistence, also great. But you know, when I look back at my life, I want to know that all the work that I made is work that I made because it's something I wanted to do and it meant something to me and it has that integrity. And I think that's the greatest priority I have right now.
Amazing. We are over time. Do we have time for any questions? I don't know. NAB has rules. I know we're the last session.
Come on, this is so fun.
Does anyone have a question? We have one. All right, so we'll go. Can we go to 2 questions or no? 1 question?
We're going to do a couple
Can I have any rules?
Look, everybody's excited.
We'll have 1 question.
Guy in the back, I'm going to throw you the mic.
Okay.
They kicked me out. Just scream it.
What's your question? Oh wow, we have our runner. Yeah, that's an amazing A2.
That's speed right there.
That's the real hero right there.
MVP.
So my dad always taught me that my number one skill in life was to never meet a stranger. And as
Wait, say that again. Your number one skill was what?
to never meet a stranger. It's like every time I meet somebody, I create a connection and I make a
Okay,
friend.
beautiful.
We're creating a YouTube channel for a production company that I have, and I've noticed how important collaboration is, and I've noticed you've done that so well. So basically, my question is, how important is it to not be a dick to people when you're working and getting a big head by becoming so popular? And also, holy shit, I'm actually talking to you.
You know, I was just having this conversation with I wish I could remember who it was. Being nice costs nothing.
Yeah.
And like, I wouldn't describe myself as a nice person. I'm not a mean person. But I'm not like I'm not obsequious in the way I carry myself. But when you want to achieve something, anything in this world, you get so much further. I was pulled over by the Las Vegas Police Department twice, driving here from the Wynn Casino, which was about 800 feet away. I couldn't figure out where this place was, and I kept doing U-turns. They pulled me over twice. All I could do was throw as much nice as I could at them to keep them from giving me a ticket, and they didn't. They were very, very. They didn't give me a ticket. So I think being nice is important. I think being nice is everything. Don't be too nice. Be direct. Be focused. Be confident in what you say and how you carry yourself, especially in this industry, which is filled up with a lot of phonies and a lot of bullshit artists. But I think being nice is extremely important. Especially in a space where everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
If you're not nice, you don't get to work again.
Great question. And just one more. Let me know, please.
Can we give them? Is there any women, girls?
Oh yeah, let's get a woman question. There you go.
How about the young lady sitting directly next to that guy?
So I've been watching you since I was 13. When I started watching
You
Baby
feel
Different.
so old. Okay.
I'm 19 years old. I started full-time working at the same production studio that he does. What would you say to someone that, is in this environment that there's so much social media being thrown at them and like so much content? It's like, what do you do? It's like,
I think I understand the question. I'm going to interrupt you. Keep going. You can fail for 10 more years before you need to find any meaningful success. Just fail and keep failing. Keep making work that nobody watches. Keep making work because you're going to progressively and consistently get better at what you do, and you will continue to grow and continue to find an audience. As the world changes and YouTube becomes something else and TikTok goes away and this happens, you will always be positioned because you never stop creating. I think persistence and determination are the two least sexy. You can throw patience in there. Least sexy aspect about succeeding in any field, but certainly this space. No one likes to talk about the patience that's required. No one likes to talk about the fact that you have to be willing to fail for a decade, and even then there's no guarantee of success. But I think if you can do those things, there's no way you can fail. You're either going to succeed or you're going to die trying, and that counts. Okay, we can...
Well, with that, Casey, we are wrapping up. Give it up for Casey Neistat, everyone. The first standing ovation we've had. One of the first.
I think this is good.
Thank you for joining us the past few days on the main stage. It has been an honor as you all come up here. I've been your main stage host at this event, driving the world of broadcast media and entertainment forward. As a reminder, everyone, the exhibit floor is open until 2 p.m. Check out everything happening there. Thank you for all of you for being at NAB this year. How was NAB for you all?